what's going on everyone? How are you guys doing today? What I have for you today in this video is I want to talk to you guys about how Apple feels about Siri. So if you guys don't know what Siri is, maybe you never used an iPhone before or an iOS device. Siri is basically Apple's voice assistant, and this was released ever since the iPhone 4S came out, and then it was going on to the iPhones after that, and that's how we are currently using Siri today. Now, the unfortunate part is, I guess the majority of people or the consumer feel like Siri is not that great, and therefore they say Siri sucks, and even Apple thinks so. How is that the case? Well, according to a recent article that I read, which the link to that will be in the description below, apparently there were some big decisions that Apple had to make that caused Siri to be rushed. So they rushed on the Siri project, and from what it sounds like, they should have released this a little bit later, but instead they did it very early with the iPhone 4S, and Siri, I guess, wasn't that great of a project to begin with. Maybe it might have started out with like Apple tries to slowly improve Siri as the years go on. So if I recall correctly, I think Siri can only be operated through a Wi-Fi connection, and if you are on a cellular connection, Siri was useless back then. Now I think they might have fixed that. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't used Siri for a while, but I do know that it did have its improvements as the years went on. That being said, apparently the majority of the consumers still feels like Siri is not that great. I mean, how often are we talking about Siri all the time? Maybe Apple does when they are at a new press conference, but how often are people using it? Maybe for the Apple TV and the HomePod, but as far as like the iPhones and the iPads, probably not, or maybe not very often. But obviously Siri does have its use because some people do like using Siri for simple things such as asking them a question and what time is it in this location. And then of course you have the competitors out there, the Google Voice Assistant, as well as other competitors out there. So with that being said, Apple had admitted it, and I guess people were under the assumption that Apple doesn't know what they're doing with Siri. According to this, apparently Apple just had some big decisions that had to be made that actually caused the project to be rushed. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying a couple months ago about Apple trying to reevaluate themselves, where they're trying to not rush things out in the market because it seems like they were trying to do that over the past few years. Now, granted, their products are still successful these days, but they can better innovate on that and better improve on that if they just take their time. For instance, I switched over to Samsung back in 2015. I was very pleased with all the events that had come out after that, and when it got up to the Galaxy S9 announcement, I feel like there might have been some sort of lacking on there. So each company at some point comes to a certain situation where maybe their audience may not be as pleased as the previous conference. That's how I felt with Samsung, although the event wasn't bad, like I said before. It just wasn't my favorite overall, and that most of the Galaxy S9's focus was on the cameras. So this gives companies the opportunity to maybe sit back, figure out what they did wrong, and try not to rush anything out on the market. And I guess Apple is trying to do that because, let's face it, for years I feel like they've gone pretty stale, but at the same time that's what makes people like their products at the same time, because the way you use the iOS devices, the way they're being used, the way they operate is plain and simple, and I would say it's very user friendly. The only time that it's not user friendly is when you have to go through iTunes to sync media from your computer back onto your phone, unless if you were to download content from the iTunes store or the App Store and purchase them. I mean, that's the only part of Apple that is not very user friendly in my opinion, whereas Android, you're not being controlled by third-party software. You can basically plug this up to your PC, use Windows File Explorer, and just drag and drop files right there. And the only time that this can get complicated is if you have this connected to a Mac like I do, and from time to time to transfer files from there, but then I have to download a third-party application onto my Mac, Android file transfer, try to copy all the data, deal with the not so great connectivity issues, especially on the Note 4. The Note 4 was a total disaster with my MacBook. So that's the only time that Android could be frustrating, along with when using the operating system. At some point you might feel like it's a little bit slow at times, and then all of a sudden you got all these ads popping up, because Android, I'd say, gets viruses a lot easier, but that doesn't mean iOS is not prone to it. They are prone to it. Anything is prone to viruses out there. One just happens to be better at not having those come as often versus the other. So I don't know about Samsung. You know, Samsung is just a whole different situation. But as far as Apple's concerned with Siri, hopefully this year when they have like new press conferences coming out that they've improved on that. So what do you guys think about Siri? Do you guys feel like it sucks now? Do you guys think that there's a whole lot that Apple should be doing to make it better? I'd like to see what you guys have to say in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment. Also check out the description below for my social media links, Twitter and Instagram. See you in the next one. Take care, everybody.